Hey, I'm back. I'm gonna do one more chapter with you guys. One more chapter from Iron Sharpens Iron, and this time we're in chapter 4. The Tort. Deliberate Sins is the title of chapter 4. A tort. Okay, so again, for those who are just tuning into this and haven't caught any of the other videos where I'm actually sharing a chapter from my book Iron Sharpens Iron, one of the things that I said is that each of the chapters are given legal titles. So a tort is a wrongful act or an infringement of a right other than under contract leading to civil legal liability. It says, a tort is an act or omission that gives rise to injury or harm to another and amounts to a civil wrong for which courts impose liability. So this tort, chapter 4, the tort that we'll be talking about is deliberate sins, y'all. Iron sharpens iron. It's business, not personal. Chapter 4. It says, though Eli did give his sons a warning, his tolerance of their refusal to listen and continued acts of rebellion cannot be ignored. Okay, so y'all see what the tort was? I'm going to read that one again. Though Eli did give his sons a warning, his tolerance of their refusal to listen and continued acts of rebellion cannot be ignored. They were allowed to continue to serve as priests despite the warnings. There was an order that was to be followed in case an anointed Levitical priest sinned by mistake. That's seen at Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1 through 12. Or if a chieftain, which is a ministerial leader, sinned unintentionally. That is Leviticus chapter 4, verses 22 through 26. But that order was not put into action, and their sins was not unintentional. An in-depth discussion of what is to happen when one sins unintentionally is found in chapter 7, which is called a capital offense. That's that long chapter I was telling y'all about. It's long too. So what about intentional sins? Was there a cost, a price to pay when the sin was intentional? Numbers chapter 15, verse 30 and 31, NIV says, but anyone who sins defiantly, whether native born or foreigner, blasphemes the Lord and must be cut off from the people of Israel, because they have despised the Lord's word and broken his commands. They must surely be cut off. Their guilt remains on them. That was talking about somebody who sinned defiantly. Okay, we talking about a deliberate sin. They said they were supposed to be cut off. It says the above verse refers only to defiant, deliberate, intentional sins. In order to fully understand what we are reading, it is important that we make sure that we understand the meaning of the words that we are reading. So let's consider the meanings of both of the words, defiance and deliberate. Defiance is defined as an open resistance and bold disobedience. Other words used to describe defiance are rebellion, insolence, and aggression. Deliberate is defined as something that is done intentionally and on purpose. In the verses that we have already considered, we are told how God feels about deliberate and defiant sins. Those who acted that way were said to be blaspheming the Lord, and thus they were to be cut off. This was a serious matter in the days of the Bible, and it is just as serious today. To understand how serious this is for us today, let's look at what the Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy about this very matter. 1 Timothy Timothy chapter 1, verse 18 through 20, the Amplified Bible reads, "This command I entrust to you, Timothy, my son, in accordance with the prophecies previously made concerning you, so that inspired and aided by them you may fight the good fight in contending with false teachers. Keep your faith, leaning completely on God with absolute trust and confidence in His guidance, and having a good conscience, for some people have rejected their moral compass and have made a shipwreck of their faith. Among these are Hymenaeus and Alexander, whom I have handed over to Satan, so that they will be disciplined and taught not to blaspheme." The Apostle Paul said that in order to teach the two mentioned above, Hymenaeus and Alexander, not to blaspheme God, not to be defiant, not to be rebellious, not to be insolent or aggressive, and especially not on purpose, Paul said that they had to be handed over to Satan. That's right. Discipline was necessary, and those in charge of administering the discipline needed to not be afraid to do so. Like both Jeremiah and Ezekiel were told, they need to not be afraid of men and their faces. That's Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 8 and Ezekiel chapter 2 verse 6. There was a reason why the discipline needed to happen. This reason is explained in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. The Amplified Bible reads, so 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 5, "You are to hand over this man to Satan for the destruction of his body, so that his spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord Jesus." So the Apostle Paul tells us that the purpose of handing one over to Satan is for the purpose of having their sinful nature destroyed, while this one's spirit is saved on the day of the Lord. This was a serious matter because the Apostle Paul, in writing to the Corinthian congregation, told them that we are judged by the Lord and disciplined so that we're not condemned by the world. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 32. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26 through 31, the NIV version reads, "If we deliberately keep one sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. Anyone who rejected the law of Moses died without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much more severely do you think someone deserves to be punished who has trampled the Son of God underfoot, who has treated as an unholy thing the blood of the covenant that sanctified them, and who has insulted the Spirit of grace? For we know him who said, 'It is mine to avenge, I will repay.' And again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." That's the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 is a reasonable education, and I think that I'll do that another day. I got other things I gotta get done. Also, in other books that I gotta do readings for. So I hope you have enjoyed this Iron Sharpens Iron. It's available on Amazon in the paperback format and the ebook format. I've got to go in and check to make sure that it's available as a hardback. If it is not available as a hardcover, it will be coming soon as a hardcover. I'll make sure to update that. But there you go. All right, y'all. Be blessed. And again, I hope you enjoy this reading. These will all be found on YouTube, on my YouTube page, Abba Silence Ministries. The spelling of Abba Silence Ministries is right up top. Abba Silence Ministries. Or you could just type in my name and you will see, as a matter of fact, I have to show you. you type in my name, this is what you should see. Bam. All right, y'all. Be blessed. Bye.